Welcome to our channel that compares gospel topics and Franciscan sources. Today we talk about the mystery of Ascension, according to two aspects. Contemplation of the divine condition despite the persecution of men, and handing over Jesus' mission to the disciples. This, in the experience of friendship with Christ in us, intimate presence. Inspiring, guiding us, and picks up our pace. Thus each of us can nourish ourselves on such secret and fraternal sap, in the path of love, in the precious oneness and communion that enrich the world. For a more complete overview of our human, cultural and spiritual proposal, we suggest you visit juvie.art. Believing and proclaiming. The risen Jesus manifested himself several times to the disciples, and despite their disbelief and hardness of heart, sent them out into the world to proclaim the gospel to every creature. Francis was a herald on every opportune and untimely occasion of the crucified and risen Christ. The inner experience he had savored had made him a herald of the word. Consulting the sources, in the Vita Prima del Solano, we read, "At the time when he preached to the birds, the Venerable Father Francis, traveling through towns and villages to scatter the seed of blessing everywhere, also reached Ascoli Piceno. In this city he proclaimed the word of God with such fervor that everyone, full of devotion, by the Lord's grace, flocked to him, eager to see and hear him. The throng of people was extraordinary, and as many as 30 clerics and lay people became his disciples, receiving the religious habit from his own hands. Men and women worshipped him with such faith that anyone who could touch his robe considered themselves supremely fortunate." Sources 430. When he entered a city, the clergy rejoiced, bells were rung, men exulted, women congratulated, children cheered, and often went to meet him with twigs in their hands and singing psalms. Heresy was covered in confusion, the faith of the Church triumphed, while the faithful were filled with jubilation, the heretics fled. The signs of his holiness were so obvious that no heretic dared dispute with him, while the whole crowd obeyed him. Fonti 431. In his evangelical itinerary, going and proclaiming the word to every creature under heaven was a vital dimension of his following in the footsteps of the risen one. But meeting the little poor was also a resurrection experience for the people, because he was an eloquent witness to newness of life. He argued that the preacher called to proclaim the gospel must first draw from the secret of prayer what he will then pour into his speeches. First he must warm himself inwardly, lest he outwardly utter cold words. And those who exercise the office of the word are the life of the body, the adversaries of demons, they are the lamp of the world. Fonti 747. They announce salvation, they perform signs, because what they carry in their hearts overflows outwardly and God works in them. Such a model was what the brothers saw in Francis, as a witness and proclamation of the risen one. The brothers who lived with him, moreover, know very well how every day, indeed every moment, the memory of Christ surfaced on his lips, with what gentleness and sweetness he spoke to him, with what tender love he conversed with him. His mouth spoke out of the abundance of the heart's holy affections, and that spring of enlightened love that filled him inside also overflowed outside. He was really very much into Jesus. Jesus was always in his heart, Jesus on his lips, Jesus in his ears, Jesus in his eyes, Jesus in his hands, Jesus in all his other limbs. Sources 522. Then the disciples set out to carry the gospel message everywhere. And the Lord acted with them and confirmed their words with signs. And when a creature disappears, bringing forth the image of the Son of God inside, and accomplishes, wherever is, the most perfect evangelization, offers the most convincing proclamation. Thus Francis, a new man, made living word. Go out into all the world and proclaim the gospel to every creature. Ascension of the Lord, Mark 16 verse 15-20.